Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now when it comes to fuel in triathlon training, I like to keep things simple. I want something I can stick to and follow consistently over time. I like to use the same products in training as when I'm racing, and I also want to save money wherever possible, and so I tend to DIY a lot of my nutrition. So in this video I'm going to run through the 7 pieces of nutrition that I use on a regular basis to help fuel my triathlon training. So let's jump straight in and have a look at the first product. So the first product we're going to have a look at is one that I use most frequently, and that is carbohydrate powder. Now I have this bag of maltodextrin from bulk here, which has actually replaced the high 5 carb powder that I previously used. Now although the high 5 powder was great, it wasn't the cheapest thing out there, and I'd seen other people online going down the route of using raw materials and making their own carb drinks, so I thought I'd try the same. When I head out on the bike or even on a run, I'll mix some squash with some water, a scoop or two of this carb powder, and then some added electrolytes as well. This is the #1 nutrition product I tend to use, mainly because of how convenient and cheap to buy it is. Now the second product I tend to use are these electrolytes, again through bulk. Since moving away from using the high 5 powder, which has electrolytes in it, obviously the maltodextrin doesn't have exactly what you need. That's really just carbohydrate powder. So I've gone down the route of using added electrolytes as well to make sure I'm replenishing what I lose in sweat. I also use this outside of training. So with the carbohydrate powder, obviously you've got the calories in there. First thing in the morning, I don't need those, but I do need electrolytes. So I'll add this to my water and squash, and it's a good way to start the morning. Now, when it comes to the quantity of electrolytes I need, that's something I'm still experimenting with. I know that I sweat a lot and lose a lot of sodium when I'm training, so I'm currently experimenting with how many scoops of electrolytes I'm adding to my drink bottles. Something I do need to do still is test using these electrolytes and the quantities on a longer, more intense training session. Now, since I've broken my foot, I haven't been doing intense bike rides, nor have I done any running whatsoever. So over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be experimenting with how much electrolytes I need and try and find the right amount. Product number 3 that I use, not so much these days, now that I'm using the dedicated electrolytes, but I actually used to use sea salt as a way of adding sodium to my drinks. Something I plan on doing in the next few weeks is experimenting with using both the electrolyte powder and the sea salt to see how my body reacts to that. I started to realise how I wasn't consuming enough sodium and salt when I was doing the Weymouth 17.3 and found that my tri-suit was covered in salt afterwards. I knew I hadn't been replenishing what I had been losing. Now I definitely wasn't the only person in this position, but in a way I'm quite glad it happened because I took that away as something to improve on in the future. Now I do tend to sweat a lot even on easier training sessions, so working out how much sodium I need to replenish is something I'm really focused on at the moment. The next product that I tend to use, which isn't as regularly as some of the other products, are these high 5 energy bars. I tend to reserve these as a bit of a treat on a longer bike ride, purely because I really like the flavour. There are definitely cheaper alternatives out there, so I tend to only really buy these if I need to make up a wiggle order, for example, to get the free delivery. If you want to give them a try, I'd really recommend buying the mixed box. They're quite often discounted on Wiggle, and you get a mix of different flavours. I think there's peanut, banana, berry and coconut. Now, when it comes to my personal favourite flavour, it's actually coconut, which is quite surprising because it's only been in the last year or so that I've really taken to coconut flavoured things. And for someone that really likes peanut butter and peanuts in general, the peanut flavour is probably my least favourite out of those 4. Another product that I use regularly from High 5 are these energy gels. Now, I don't use these on the bike. I've been there, done that, and it didn't go very well. They aren't the easiest thing to undo when you're trying to ride, and also I found, it may just be me, but I make an absolute mess with these, and so I reserve these for when I'm on the run. There's been times where I've tried to down a gel while cycling, and I've ended up with half of it all over my hands and the other half all over my jersey. I'm not sure I actually managed to swallow any of it. What I do like about these gels is that my stomach seems to get on quite well with them. I know that gels have a bit of a bad rap when it comes to not only taste but how they sit on your stomach, but I've had no problems with these high 5 ones whatsoever. What I have tended to do though is be a bit more conservative when it comes to choosing the flavour of the gel. I tend to stick to the more basic flavours like berry and this one black currant, rather than trying the more out there flavours just in case my stomach doesn't seem to agree with it. When it comes to the gels, I'm really not in it for the taste. These ones taste okay, but generally there's a lot of food out there that tastes a lot better than gels. So these are really just fuel for my runs. Now, the next product that I use on a pretty regular basis is probably actually my favourite out of them all, and that is fruit baked bars. These are incredibly cheap to buy. I think they're £1 something for a box of 8. And considering how big they are, there is a ton of carbs in them. These ones in particular are my favourite and they taste really nice. So these are the apple baked bars from Lidl. They do 2 other flavours, which I think are strawberry and forest fruit, but they don't come anywhere close to the apple ones. Now, a tip for you, if you're taking bars like these out with you on the bike, is to actually open them up before you head out. That way, when you go and reach into your back pocket, you only have to squeeze them up from the bottom to get them out. You don't have to worry about using your hands to try and rip them open or anything like that. If you have any recommendations on flavours for me to try, definitely leave them in comment below and I will check them out. But yeah, these ones from Lidl, highly recommended. Now, the final nutrition product that I use on a pretty regular basis may come as a bit of a surprise, as you generally find them down the biscuit aisle in the supermarkets, are actually fig rolls. Not only are these ridiculously cheap, I think there's something silly like 80p for a packet of them, but because they're so small, you can fit a ton of them in your back pocket or your bag that you take out on your bike. And because they're so small, they are quite literally bite-sized for me. One minor negative I found with them is they are quite chewy, and so you don't really want to be trying to chew one when you're putting in hard effort in the bike. I found my breathing to be a little bit more difficult when I'm trying to chew them and have to rely on breathing through my nose. But other than that, these are great. Quite a lot of carbs in something so small, so highly recommend trying out some fig rolls. So that brings us to the end of the video. They were the 7 nutrition products I use on a regular basis to fuel my triathlon training. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop it a like and subscribe to the channel. You can click on the screen here to see my latest video where I head out on the bike with the GoPro and also install an upgrade to the pain cave. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.